Hi everyone and welcome back to Your Biz, Your Rules. I'm excited to introduce another brilliant interview guest today. This one is someone I'm particularly excited about talking to because, as you all know, I love a bit of productivity and this lady is the expert. So Merilyn Beretta, hello, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Welcome. Well, yes, my name is Merilyn, and that's with an E, not an A. And as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not English, I'm not American, I am definitely Australian. Although I lived 12 years in London, so it's funny that some people kind of hear a bit of London accent, but it's probably only when I'm speaking a bit more posh and a bit more pronounced. So yes, I'm Merilyn, and I have probably been in business for about 25 years, and it has taken me that long. I've done the corporate training, the corporate world, the consulting and freelance, and only really in the last little while have I jumped out of my comfort zone and established my own personal brand in online training. Now, I come from a vast background. I studied architecture way back when. So I have an architecture degree, and then I moved into business, into photography. So I've been in creative fields as well as more strategic marketing, change management, but probably it's been a balance of creative roles and training and development, so leadership development, personal development, management development. So it was ripe and ready for me to get into my own business and share what I learned in those corporate fields, but also, oh my gosh, all the personal stuff and trauma that I went through made me throw most of it out because, like most productivity stuff really is theory. And so I tested it and came out with what I teach now is productivity that works with especially women that have are running their own businesses, probably got kids as well, probably got other things on the side, but they want something that balances their whole life, well-being and health and all of that. So yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell. I'm a solo parent of a special needs child, and I've also very much got a creative angle to what I do as well.
I love that you say it's about bringing all of the parts of life together, because I know something that I've really struggled with, because there's always like all of this home stuff that you want to do, all these creative projects you want to get involved with, but then obviously you have to do all the business stuff because that's where the money is.
Absolutely. You can't really separate the two. And I think especially if you work for yourself at home, I think for too long, corporate talks about having a balanced life. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist. It's an invention that probably came out of the 80s and 90s by HR departments to try and get people more comfortable at being an employee. But it really isn't. There's no balance, especially if you run your own business. However, your health suffers if you don't honor all those parts of your life. And that's not just health, that's also perhaps your creativity or your things that you want to do around home. If you have not got time for that, your whole health will suffer.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to dive straight in with the first thing I want to talk to you about. So I mentioned before we started recording that I have an almighty collection of books and courses and downloads all on the topic of productivity because I love it. It's like a total guilty pleasure / hobby for me. Like from where I'm sitting right now, I can see like 5 books on productivity that I haven't even read yet. And I just love them. Whenever I see them on sale on Amazon, I just buy them all. But, and here's the big but, they don't actually seem to be making me any more productive. So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on moving away from just like consuming all of the productivity hacks and tactics and actually making them work for us?
Wow. you've got self-awareness that you're aware of that. Most people don't have the self-awareness that that is going on. They're not aware that they're procrastinating in the first place. They think it's very justified. And I must say, I've got my fair share of books on the shelf too that I have never ever opened, especially productivity books. I love them as well. Some of them are so dated now that I kind of like, I don't want to throw away because they're so like they're iconic. And planners. Do you collect planners as well? Oh my gosh, every system under the sun.
Yes.
Yeah. But they are a form of procrastination. Consumption, I would say, it happens with courses as well. People consume courses, or they have the, I've got to just do one more course or one more qualification before I can do what I do. At the essence of it, it's fear. It is fear of starting, fear of progressing. And it's, I don't know about you. I don't know whether it's fear for you in terms of why you've got productivity. You've probably got a natural interest there, but there's some belief system there that says that if you've got those resources there, they're going to solve it. But it's not. The only way to solve these things is to dig deep into what is the underlying belief systems that are affecting that. And fear plays such a part in why we don't do things. And really, fear is at the heart of procrastination, and it stops people from moving forward. And I coach a lot of women and men, and I see, consuming information or doing, needing to do another course or getting another qualification, or even as little as, I've got to finish my website before I launch my business. No, you don't. Okay. You've got to work out what is that thing you must do right now, and to move that, the needle on wherever you are in your business or your life. But yeah, it is definitely a form of procrastination. So how to get rid of it? Well, you don't have to throw them away. I mean, they can be, you can use them. I mean, I keep my books now because you can get all sorts of quotes and you can get inspiration and get ideas from them. So you can justify to yourself, it's okay, I've got those for those. But I would spend, some good amount of time digging deep as to why you aren't being as productive as you think you are. Or perhaps you're a perfectionist and you have standards that are so high that are just unrealistic. And so you're using that as a measuring stick for where you're not. You can never be there. And again, perfectionism is a type of fear of criticism. So you're afraid of what someone might say because perhaps someone said something in the past, and so you've got all this armor and you've collected all these books, and they're a type of armor that protects you from your greatest fears.
I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head for me. For me, it's probably definitely a perfectionism thing. So, I mean, I'm in this business mastermind, and we have sort of a tracking system where we all share our goals and then have accountability, and we report on our progress at the end of the week. And I think the only time that I didn't get 100% was the week before I joined. But I hadn't joined, so I wasn't doing it. And everyone else is always like, you've done all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I need to be getting 150%. I need to be getting 200%. It doesn't even go up beyond 100%, but I always feel like I need to be doing more. So by anyone else's standards, I'm probably already super productive.
I think you are. I mean, what I know of you, I mean, I can see you when we're talking here, and you've got beautiful art on the wall, and you've got organized, and just your emails that you send to me, you are organized. So I don't know who is telling you that you're not productive. You are super productive. I mean, gosh, you have started and maintained a podcast for months, and you've got great people on it. To be able to do that, you have a degree of productivity. And I'm speaking to the listeners as well. What is telling you that you're not productive? And listen into those. See, productivity is not about writing lists or being organized or planning for an hour every week or whatever. A lot of it is about the mindsets and the fears and the obstacles, and what is causing that overwhelm, what is causing your perfectionism, what is causing your procrastination, what is causing your overthinking. And that is a big thing. And what is causing you to get distracted? What is causing you to jump on the Facebook when you jump on Facebook, suddenly you are off chasing some shiny object in pursuit of, oh, this is going to save my business. No, where you've got to start with productivity is inside and becoming self-aware. Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about self-awareness, and he's the sort of public face of that. I've been talking about that for decades as well. Self-awareness, self-leadership is just the key to it all. So, you're not going to ever banish perfectionism. It's a personality thing. You have a personality trait, but also it's more about being aware of that the perfectionism, and not letting it dominate you. Does that help? I think so. I think that for me over the years, I've been so blind to who I am, but it's the hard stuff in life that made me really dig deep and go, well, who the heck am I? And what are these things, these feelings that are coming up that's stopping me moving forward and doing great things?
Yeah, I think you've got it in one there. And I think a lot of the struggles that many people have is being on Facebook and being on other social platforms, and you see it because you see everything that everyone else is doing, so you think you should be doing more. You never really sort of factor in the fact that you're already doing all of this stuff. You think you should be doing all of this extra stuff on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I work with entrepreneurs and business people who have anything from having no idea what they want to do, then they're asking the big calling question, to those who are really making it well, and they've got it sorted, and they are just ready for the next level, and they're looking for more less is more strategy. So I see sort of common patterns across the whole range, and it's interesting that there are unique fears that fit each category of business growth, and getting distracted and coming up with ideas is one of those categories that we think, oh, we've got to have some ideas. Again, my advice to everyone is dig deep, and what is driving you, and what are those fears, and what are those things, and realizing things like overwhelm will never die. They'll never completely go away, but if you can get a handle on it and be self-aware about it and become the observer in your life rather than the victim of your life, then productivity becomes easy. It really is. Productivity at the end of the day is about knowing what to do right now. Okay, it's not about being able to write fantastic lists or having the right planner. It's about knowing what is the best use of my time right now. And I think, I'm raving now. Because I'm so passionate about this. But I think there are two things that are stopping people moving forward in their business, mindsets wise. It's their money belief system, and their productivity, which is their time belief system. The belief system about time. I don't have enough time. I'm running out of time. I'm getting too old. I'm too late. All those sort of things. And we don't realize the impact. And the funny thing is, if you get your time sorted and you get your productivity and mindsets and methods sorted, mostly your mindsets, and again, productivity is 80% mindsets, 20% methods or tactics. If you get that sorted, suddenly you become, I guess, productive, and you start achieving things, and you start focusing on just now and not what you should be doing in 3 weeks' time, and you achieve things. And it's funny how money obstacles also dissolve once you get your productivity mindsets and methods worked out as well. You can tell I'm passionate about it, can't you?
Because for anyone listening, we're recording this via Zoom, so I can hear her arms flying everywhere, and her face all animated, and getting really into it.
I think I'm Italian in my history. I use my hands to talk.
It's good though. It's fun to speak to people who really care about the topics they're talking about, because they're the best conversations.
Yeah. Oh, for me, it's more than just a topic. I'm probably not your listener's profile age. I'm 51, but I am sick of seeing people just not get their dreams come true. And people my age are winding down, not winding up. And I'm like, I'm looking at all this, and I've had the pleasure of working across Australia and across the world in 8 countries. And it's so simple what I see people stumble. And I don't want any more people stumbling over that. So if I can help, yeah, that's what I'm passionate about.
So in that, you mentioned planners, and the word planner for me is like this glittery klaxon that just calls to me. So I have to hone in on that because I love them. What planner do you use?
Very good. Okay, so I love planners. All right, so can I go into a little bit of history of my planners? First of all, my great love affair was with Filofax. And I had a variety of Filofax covers, and I still longingly look at my red leather A5 Filofax cover that I spent a lot of money on years ago, and I look at it and it just still has that emotional attachment to it. But it's a pain in the neck having a big ring in the middle, so I threw out Filofax, even though every single December I look at it and go, well, I use it again next year. So I've used Filofaxes, I've used day runners, day timers, all those systems during the 90s, that became really popular. What was the Franklin Covey one? I tried them all and I loved them all. And then remember the Palm Pilots came out in the early, like about 2000 or something like that. I loved them and I tried to go electronic. But then I had that conflict, which we all do, people who love planners. Will I go electronic? Will I go paper? Electronic, paper, electronic. So you do this dance and you sort of like can't ever get a happy medium between what works for you. Do you know what? The best one that and there are a lot out there, and the best one that works for me is my trusty old Moleskine. I just used a week at a glance and carved it up. And for years, I just drew up my own pages until I eventually created the Productivity Cure, which is my signature course. And I created templates for that, which are really, really simple. And I used them for quite a few years because there was so much out there. There's so much fluff and there's so much excess that you don't do. And you can spend all your time planning rather than actually doing, which can be another form of procrastination. So my tools that I give my students are very, very simple. There's like 3 or 4 tools that you would use over a season and I use them. I mean, I'm holding one up to show now, not that you can see, but I do use my own tools. And down the track, I plan to create my own planner because it really does work and all my students really do work. So to answer your question, I use a combination of my own design. So I have my own weekly plan that I use, but I do also use apps. Okay, so I at the moment I use an app called it's called, what is it called? Things. It's a paid app. It's fabulous, but it does keep me focused only on the day. So I use it kind of as a storage pot for my projects and for my tasks, a place to dump all my ideas. And then I use my my weekly paper planner. So I've also used To-Do, like spelled TEUXDEUX. It's a fantastic app for creatives. And I'm also a big Evernote fan as well. But I also love bullet journals and all the rest. What I don't like is some, and this is personal preference, is some of the planners become kind of glorified scrapbooking exercises, which is fine. But really, if you're serious about running a business, be careful that you're not sucked into, over planning too much. And I've come to a happy medium between paper planning and apps and electronic, is that you need systems for storing stuff to do and you need systems for planning your week, and you've almost got to keep them separate. And so now I'll use an electronic calendar, but that's to store my appointments. Whereas when I'm planning, I'll pull that out of the electronic planner and plan. So I've finally, after all these years, got a happy medium between paper and electronic. Hope that helps.
You might have added a couple of extra things to my shopping list. No, but yeah, I completely
I've tried
agree
them
with...
all, honestly. I think I've tried every paper planner system out there, and also every electronic app there is.
I love them. But I found that a lot of the planners that are designed like by business owners for business owners, I often get stuck using them because I am completely just like always flipping back to the instructions. See, am I using this right? Am I doing it the way I'm supposed to be doing it? When I suppose in reality it doesn't matter because I'm just supposed to be keeping myself on track. But I always get stuck in that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think some of them, you need to do their course, or you need to read their book to be able to use it. They need to be very intuitive, and they need to be, it needs to be a planning system that you look forward to using. I find what people get is they get their planning system and then they avoid opening it because it reminds them of what they haven't done. And that defeats the purpose. So if you're excited to get in looking, oh, what have I got to do today? Then that planner system is working to you. And again, I find probably every 3 to 6 months I need to tweak and change things up just so that I can keep that, good feeling going.
Yeah, and like bullet journals, I love looking at the things that people do in their bullet journals. And I'm like very creative myself. I love painting, I love drawing, I love collage, I love all of that stuff. But when I've tried bullet journaling, I don't want it for that. I don't want it to be a piece of art. I want it to keep me on track. But then when mine doesn't look like a piece of art and everybody else's does, I'm just like, oh, well, I hate this.
Yeah, I know.
So, like this year, I'm stripping it way back, and I found like the most basic planner I can. So it's a week to view across a double spread, and each day just has 2 boxes underneath it. One box I'm using for my like work stuff, and then one box I'm trying to use for like home and life stuff in this like desperate attempts to get, I know you said we can't have balance, but some sort of equilibrium in there.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm trying. So anyway, on the topic of planning, how do you recommend doing the actual like planning and goal setting stuff? Because I know a lot of people still do all of their planning once a year, but now a lot of people also do the 90-day planning thing. So I was just wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Okay. I do have thoughts on that. I probably gave up New Year's resolutions 10 years ago, at least, because they're a great idea, but they never happen. And you peter out by the end of the year. Plus, I think time's speeding up. And I think now 3 months is equivalent to a year of 10, 20 years ago. It is so much faster. So yes, there is a big trend for, the 90-day year or the 12-week process. There's a lot of systems out that are similar, and they're all claiming to have the right answer and that they're unique. No, people have been doing this for years. In fact, businesses have been planning by the quarter for decades and decades and decades. So I do that as well. And it probably came from my years of working in I worked with a very boutique change management, doing really cutting edge things years ago out of Scotland, actually. And they didn't have yearly meetings. They had quarterly meetings where they got the team together and they planned their quarter, and they didn't look past the quarter. And something really stuck for me personally then. And so what I started to do was do it by the season. So I found, which I think if it works for seasons, nature, it works for humans. So I tend to go, okay, coming into summer, because you feel like growth, you feel like, there's different things. So I have like a summer, winter, autumn, and spring season where I do my planning. So what am I going to do this season? What am I going to do that season? Or sometimes I'll just do, use the quarters, because that's sometimes more universal language. So I never plan yearly. I only plan for quarter, and that's exciting because it's long enough to, a 3-month block, it's long enough to get some serious goals kicked. Although I hate using sports analogies. Sorry, I just used one. But, getting some goals done, achieved. But it's long enough to do that, but it's not too long that you kind of lose your way. Because what I find these days is things are moving so fast. social media changes all the time. If you set a goal for a year, everything changes. So 3 months, you might be onto a new thing that hasn't even been invented yet. So I stick to 3 months. So at the start of the 3 months, I'll plan out my 3 months. What are my goals? And I always stick to a 3x3 system. 3 months, 3 goals. Very simple. And any more than that, you're not going to achieve, really. So they're usually 2 business and 1 personal goal, or 1 business, 1 health goal, and 1 sort of house or home, or relationship goal. But I have 3 goals in 3 months, and I'll plan them, and I'll have them focused, and I'll write that on the top of every page that I, every week's planner, so that I'm very, very focused on those. Then I'll break them down into projects, and then I'll break them down into the tasks that make up those projects. And that's where a lot of people go wrong too. They schedule projects onto their day planner, whereas you'll never achieve that. So you'll always feel behind. You'll always feel discouraged. So people will say, oh, I've got to do my website. So they'll schedule, it comes to Monday, work on website. Hello, how can you ever measure that or get some sort of satisfaction? You need to break that down. Website is a project, okay? It's not even a goal. A goal could be, a goal around that would be create an amazing, beautiful website that, is going to attract, increase my list by 100% or something like that. That is your goal, but your project would be, redo your website, or, and then you break it down into copy, and even that break it down about copy, or your, what's your headlines, or have a new photo shoot. So you see what I mean? You don't confuse projects with tasks. So so I do 3 months. Definitely. I don't even look year. But what I do is I do keep a sort of a wish list that's beyond the 3 months. And I keep like a year, a really broad planner. And even now today I was thinking, oh, this is coming up in such and such a month. I've got to go to the US here, and I've got to go somewhere there. So I pop it in as, something to do down the track, but I won't focus on it. I just focus on this 3 months. And I find that I achieve way more, and you can achieve a lot more in 3 months than you think you ever did. It's amazing. Whereas if you set out and plan for a year, guarantee things will change, and you'll abandon those goals lists, or you won't even remember where you put them, which is what happens.
Yeah, I have a notoriously messy, frustrated relationship with goal setting. So back at the start of the year, I recorded a mini podcast on the topic of goal setting, and I was talking about how I'm really rubbish at setting goals and coming up with the big ideas when I sit down to do it. Because when I try to think of things that I want to do, I can only ever come up with habits or little tweaks that I want to make that are relating to the way I live life, rather than these big things that I want to achieve. Yeah. And to a certain extent, that's the same, even though I do the 90-day planning in my business, and I use that to sort of structure my time and what I'm working on. When it comes to setting the big goals for those 90-day stints, I still really struggle, because my goals sort of happen when I get suddenly inspired by something. I mean, I decided that I was going to start this podcast sort of in the middle of the last 90 days of 2017. So it was not nicely at the beginning where I had 90 full days to get it done. It was sort of 2 weeks before the end of November, which I decided was going to be my launch date. And I just thought, like, this is going to be my goal. This is what I'm doing. But yeah, so I really struggle to fit my goal setting into these neat boxes.
Do you know what? I think you are better at goal setting than you think. And I think what it comes from is a thinking that, and I think that's very left-brained. We haven't moved into this in the conversation yet, but I actually believe goals should be right-brained. It should be out of flow. It should be more in touch with what I call goosebumps. What is that idea that bubbles up that isn't because you sat down and you wrote, you had your goal sessions and you wrote out your goals. Okay. That's very left brain. I think if you are in tune with who you are, listening to your intuition and listening to your gut, then those ideas are going to bubble up and they become your goals. So when I use the word goals, sometimes I interchange it with habits. So, for example, I've embarked this season or this quarter onto a new form of meditation, daily meditation. And I'm not woo-woo. I'm not meaning the religious type of it, but because I'm very much into the brain and how it works. And I found a form of meditation that is all about that, you know, and by neuroscientists who knows what to do in order to change those neural pathways. And it is turning my life around. And so I've set as my goal to do this hour meditation every day. It's a habit, but for me, it's the best goal that I could ever have. And it's because I've got that desire behind it. So I don't think you're very far off the truth. I think we, you know, just sit down with pen and paper and write out our list of goals at the start of a season yeah, you can do that. But I think we need to have more room in our lives for that spontaneous and that. For me, the best goals are the ones that give you goosebumps, the ones that aren't set down, created with pen and paper, that you're lying awake at night and suddenly they come out and you go, oh, I have this great idea. And then suddenly you find that the flurry of everything you need to do comes out. You know exactly what you do. They're the ones to chase. They're the ones, because you're tapping into the wiser self and your intuition and yeah, go with that, because let's stop this very left brain, sports focused, achieve, hustle approach to goals. Let's be much more flowing and in touch with what those feelings are telling us.
I think there's always this temptation there so you want to come up with some sort of formula or some sort of magic way that will always help you set those goals and achieve those goals, because then you can roll it out again and again and again. Whereas if you're just sort of listening to your inner voice and following inspiration where it takes you, it's not as trustworthy. You can't guarantee that it's always going to be there, which I think is scary for a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But I teach a very left and right brain approach. You know, you have the structure of your left brain, your lists, your processes, your forms, your templates, that kind of thing. But also get in touch with what your right brain is doing as well, and allow yourself the flexibility to flow with that. And so I think that's it's not unique, but it's an important thing to consider, especially if you're creative. And especially if you're a woman too, I think, you know, getting in touch with that, but having a structure for with you do it is very good. Because most time management or productivity training is either left brain or you've got the extreme right brain stuff. They don't often marry the two very well together.
Okay, so let's talk about morning routines, because this is something that I read an awful lot about. So I've obviously read The Miracle Morning, I've read endless articles on the topic, and people are promising all of these like spiffy morning rituals that are like the key to unlocking the most productive, on fire you. But I really struggled trying to implement The Miracle Morning. It didn't work for me at all. So I'm wondering if you have any helpful thoughts on that.
Yes, I do. I do agree with having, you know, a morning ritual, a midday ritual, and an evening ritual. And it's not, I love the Miracle Morning. I love the concept, but I struggle with it too. And, you know, getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever doesn't always work in everyone's lifestyle. You know, it really doesn't. And there are different body types and there are different motivations. And again, I think it borders on hustle, which, no offense, but I think it's great. And if it works for you, great. You know what the key is there, and that people don't really think about? It's people who love that. It's the emotion and the energy that you've got, the positive emotion that you've got around that makes you want to do that. If you've not got positive emotion around that, that is not the routine for you. So I think we can be a slave to these routines and it can waste so much time. And then we set up the guilt factor because we're not doing our morning routine and we start our day right. So you need to find a routine that works for you. And the reason why you need a morning routine is to get your mind, and this is proven with the brain, get your mind into a not just a positive emotion, but an uplifted emotion. Because what happens is our brain will naturally, the the sort of primitive brain, the fear-driven brain who doesn't like change will get up and automatically everything will flood in and it'll go, oh, quick, I need to sort of be cautious here because we better be careful. And so you'll start the day off feeling low. So the best morning routine you could have would be to anything that's going to get you into an elevated emotional state. Now, for me, I change it. So for me, it might be putting on Netflix in the morning at 6 or 6:30 and watching half an hour of my favorite show, just so that I get into a more positive state, because it's more important. The goal of a morning routine is to elevate your emotions and get you ready for the day. So it might, pick one thing that is going to get you into that place, whether it's taking your dog for a walk, or meditation, or writing out your list, or watching something that's going to make you happy, or journaling, or there are a number of things you can do, but you don't need to do all of them. Pick something that takes 5 minutes, that is easy, and you look forward to it. And that is the key. Are you looking forward to it each morning? And if you don't, switch it up. The other thing I do is midday, I usually just have a very quick sort of check-in with how I'm going, and it'll mean and I'll often go, it's in the moment it's really hot here in Australia, so I won't go for a dog walk during the heat, but in winter I'll go around around the block with the dog, just to get some fresh air, get my limbs moving, because most of us are sitting in front of computers for too long. But it also it's like a check-in with your head. Where am I at? Is my brain going off in places that it shouldn't? Am I sabotaging myself? Am I sticking to my plan for the day, or have I been distracted on Facebook? Okay. And then I always have a bedtime routine, because look, entrepreneurs, we have a gazillion ideas going around in our heads. So there needs to be a switch of energy towards the end of the day, so that we can get to sleep and get sleep that is healing. So it's hard to do, but I always try and aim to wind down and by about 9:30 at night. So I'll switch off the electronics. I'll try and read a paper novel rather than an electronic novel, and have one or two routines that really telling your body it's time to wind down and it's time to take on a different energy and get ready for sleep. Otherwise, I'll just lie there till 1 or 2 in the morning with ideas racing.
I can definitely relate to that. But I really love what you say about the morning routine being something that you can change, and that's okay. So I know when I had a corporate job, mine was I'd get up first thing in the morning and watch an episode of CSI before I went to work. And that's what I used to do every morning.
I love it.
Yeah, and now I try and because I really am stuck in front of a desk all day, sat in the same position, I try to make mine walking my dogs, and I might listen to a nice podcast or an audiobook as I do it, and that fresh air and that movement gets me in a really good place to start my day. Definitely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. But don't let anyone tell you what should be in that morning routine. I keep a list of ideas, because sometimes, you listen to podcasts and you hear about what other people are doing. You go, oh, that's a great idea. I should do that. Write it down as an idea. Don't think, oh, I'm failed because I'm not doing 20 things in my morning routine. That's not the point of it.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I think I've been through a lot of the different ideas. So I tried doing meditations in the morning, and I am just not one for meditating. Whereas the journaling, that's something that really clicks with me, and I can sort of release all of my crazy thoughts onto a page and feel a lot better after doing it. So that's like a little piece that I can take from that.
Excellent.
But I remember when I was beta testing the productivity cure, one of my favorite things that you said whenever we're trying to create these new habits, if we fall off the wagon, instead of having that guilt of like, oh, I'm rubbish, I can't stick to anything, just say, I'm not doing it today. This isn't the norm. The norm is doing it.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad you remembered that one. It's so true, because what happens is we tend to get so dramatic and we think everything's all over. Oh my gosh, I've got to start again. No, just have your routine as your normal. And if you need to break from it 5 days, this week out of 7, that is okay. Just bounce back to it. Brilliant.
It is. It's like a little Australian mantra that goes around in my head still. So if I oversleep and I don't have time to walk my dogs before my first call in the morning, I'll just say, it's fine. This is not the norm.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so what would you say are 3 things that people can just cut out today in order to amp up their productivity a little bit?
Oh gosh, 3? No, I like working in 3s. They are good. To amp up their productivity, okay. Oh, this is a scary one. Switch off your notifications on social media. Okay. Now, what I'm meaning by that is turn off all bells, all alarms, with email and with social media on your phone and on your computer, browser as well. You go and check email when you're ready to check email. You go and check Facebook updates when you can. You won't miss anything. It'll all be there. I'm a big believer that if you're meant to see it, you'll see it. But what's driving you is a fear of missing out and a fear of, some sort of fear there. So yeah, turn off all dings and alarms, all that sort of things that's going to distract you. And when you're sitting down to work, turn off your this is all the same point. Actually, no, we'll make that the second point, is that when you're going to do creative work and meaning awesome work where you need high concentration, is definitely switch off your browsers. Okay, turn them off, switch them off. You don't need email on, and you don't need social media pages open as well. That is the biggest distractor of time. So that's 2. Now, third one would be probably physiological, in that I found the biggest help for my productivity is self-aware, listening to my body, and getting sleep and cutting out sugar. I know we hate hearing that, but it's so true. It creates brain fog. So I find that if I'm not, I get really busy, I stop listening to my body, and my body's saying, you're tired, put me to bed. I mean, I had a 2-hour nap this afternoon, and that was because I would never have done that. I would normally have been pushed through, but I've learned to be self-aware, listen to my body, and don't push yourself past that point. If you need sleep, have it. If you need to go to bed, have it, and cut that sugar out, because all it does is drain you of energy.
Right, and we run our own businesses, so we don't have to stick to anyone else's schedule. We don't have to work 9 to 5. If we want to, want to nap, if we want to do something else, we can do that.
Totally, I agree.
Okay, so what's your biggest guilty pleasure, and how do you weave it into the way you work?
Oh, my biggest guilty pleasure.
Apart from planners.
Apart from what?
Planners.
Oh, do you know what my really guilty pleasure is? Being able to sit at my desk with a glass of wine in the afternoon.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Oh, it just feels great, because you'd never do that at work if you're in an office. But yeah, it's just, sometimes I will get sort of mid-afternoon and I'll think, do you know what? And it's part of that celebratory thing, like, I've done a good job today. I'm going to get myself a glass of wine, and it's only 4:00 in the afternoon. But it's kind of, it's a guilty pleasure.
Well, why not? Before we wrap up, you mentioned that big collection of productivity books. Is there anything I should be adding to my shopping list?
Oh gosh. Well, I love Tim Ferriss's one, his big Tools of Titans. You've got that one? That's pretty fab. Okay.
I think that's already on my Kindle.
Yeah. Do you only want productivity ones?
Oh no, feel free. Hit me with them all.
I'm going to look up my Audible list right now and tell you what I'm listening to. Would you like to know?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. The best book on the planet. Oops. Oh, we're listening to it now. You might have to edit that bit out. All right. So what I'm listening to on my podcast right now, and my or because I dog walk too, and it's that's the way I catch up with my reading now. Is Audible. I love it because who really have time. So best book ever that I've read, and I highly recommend it. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's called How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. And he's a neuroscientist. It's absolutely amazing. And it's not just about productivity. It's not really productivity, but if you can handle how your brain works, it sorts everything else out. So I love that. Another one I've been listening to is Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. That's a good one. So yeah, I could recommend both of those. And I'm also currently listening to the Jen Sincero. She's fantastic. If you listen to her stuff, you are a badass, and you're a badass at making money. Not productivity books, but they do. A lot of what I teach is mindset and productivity as well. So I would highly recommend those. Another really great productivity book, although once you've sort of read the first few chapters, you get the whole book. It's The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
Yeah, I have read that one, and I thought that too. It's like sort of once you've read that initial description of the 5-second rule, you don't need to read the rest of the book.
No, you don't. She just goes on and on and on with all the stories about it. So yeah. So, but it's fun to listen to. So yeah. So that's what I'm reading at the moment.
Lovely. I'm going straight over to Amazon when we're done with this.
But Dr. Joe Dispenza, fantastic. Highly recommended.
Oh, great. Okay, I'll start with that one then.
Mm.
So tell us where we can find you online.
You can find me online on my website, which is merilynberetta.com. You'll have to look up to spell that. And then also on Instagram, I have the handle Merilyn, Merilyn, Merilyn. I was one of the first people on Instagram, and I was able to nab my first name. How about that? And you can find me, and my Facebook page is Merilyn Beretta as well.
Lovely. I will pop links to all of those in the show notes so that people can head over, check you out, and soak up all of the productivity-based knowledge that they should wish for.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a brilliant interview. I'm listening back to this recording later. I'm going to take plenty of notes.
Oh, great. Oh, you've got a great podcast. Like, I wish you much success. I mean, gosh, this girl's going places. Love it. Love it. Love it. And you live in one of my favorite countries, England.
Yeah, always a bonus.
You're welcome.
All right. I will talk to you later. Thank you for listening to Your Biz, Your Rules. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about weaving personality into your business, please feel free to hop over to my website, darapaddy.com. That's where you'll find all kinds of resources and all kinds of inspiration for just being a little bit more you online, because it is possible.